I am excited to welcome the amazing Michael Snyder, who comes and goes on the most beautiful of rainbows. Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, welcome to the Mark Thompson Show. Hello to you.
Well, hello, Kim, and hello to Albert. And I know it's No King's Weekend, but apparently it's also No Mark's Friday. I guess it's had some technical difficulties. Is that the case?
The power went out in the Mark Thompson estate, and so this is what happens, but the good thing is Albert's here, and so everything is going to run smoothly, and all is well.
Well, and you're here too, and so am I. And it is No King's Weekend, and I encourage you to attend the demonstration in your neighborhood or near to where you live. And by the way, No Kings is not to be confused with the right wing's series of No Queens counter demonstrations protesting drag queen story times. So, No Kings good, No Queens bad. I just want people to get that clear.
Thank you for spelling it out. Much appreciated.
Okay, good. Some quick nightlife notes. I'm in the Bay Area still. I should be back in Los Angeles in a week or so. But tonight at Music City, San Francisco, 1355 Bush at Polk, it's the Star Factory's one-year anniversary with a series of live performances, including a set by Music City founder and Mark Thompson Show guest Rudy Colombini with his band, the Unauthorized Rolling Stones, at around 9 p.m. I will be there.
Okay.
And tomorrow night, Saturday night in San Francisco, it's the New Wave City 33rd anniversary party at the Cat Club, dedicated to the music and fashion of the 80s. Super popular now. There's a whole retro 80s love thing going on. And this party starts at 9 p.m. with host and DJ and founder Shindog and resident DJ Andy T. And that's it for a brief look at some of the Bay Area nightlife that I'll be diving into. Shall we get to the movies, Kim?
Yes, I think so. I saw the first one on your list, and it is, I'll say, Frankenstein. I know you like to pick the ones you're going to do, but I just thought my thoughts on that were, how many Frankenstein movies do we need? Is this enough?
Guess what? This is one of the best, and this movie, which is officially Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, but we can just call it Frankenstein, is one of the most faithful adaptations of Mary Shelley's classic Gothic novel, Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, that I've ever seen. Del Toro made the not-so-great Gothic drama Crimson Peak with Mia Wasikowska. It looked great. I wished it was better. And I think the great Mexican filmmaker decided to do his own version of Frankenstein, and he would have source material that would obviously be tried and true. And boy, this is good. It looks spectacular. It's, again, close to the book. It begins in the Arctic and ends in the Arctic, as the book does. So, those of you who are familiar with the Boris Karloff Frankenstein movie, this is a little closer to the original and the original book. And I have to tell you, it is gorgeous to look at. It's broken up into different segments, in one case telling the story from the creator's point of view, that being Victor Frankenstein, a scientist whose dream is to create life. And another perspective is from the creature's point of view. Frankenstein himself is played by Oscar Isaac. The creature is played by Jacob Elordi, of all people, kind of a handsome, hunky actor who maybe people know having that he played Elvis Presley in the Priscilla Presley docudrama. But he's the creature here. Speaking of goth and gothic, Mia Goth, who was so wonderful in the Pearl trilogy, plays the apple of Frankenstein's eye, and not necessarily with feelings reciprocated, Elizabeth Lavenza. Christoph Waltz plays Harlander, who is the guy who finances all of Frankenstein's experiments to bring life from a patchwork body that he's assembled from various corpses. And honestly, it just kicked ass. It looked beautiful, and it told the story in detail, and I was never bored for a second. And it runs around 2 hours plus. And again, boy, does it look good. And there's even, the blind man from the original story. He's played by the great British character actor David Bradley, the blind man who takes in the creature and
Yeah.
befriends him. And Bradley is probably best known for his work as the news agent accused of pedophilia in the TV series Broadchurch. But he is a veteran character actor in the UK. Wonderful, wonderful presence. This movie was a treat. And here's the really cool thing about it, or maybe not so cool, because I saw it on the big screen and it was glorious. It is going to be shown this weekend and for the next week or so in limited release, New York, LA, San Francisco, a few other places, and not a lot of theaters. But on November 7th, it comes to Netflix. And so I just hope you have a big old LED screen at home if you're not going to catch it in the movie theater.
Okay. Why are they going to release it to Netflix so soon?
It's a Netflix financed movie, and they're actually saying, well, let's let some people see it in the theater and make it eligible for Oscar consideration by having a theatrical presentation first.
Okay. I guess that makes sense. And it's good for us. I mean, for people who have Netflix, right? Yeah.
Del Toro wrote and produced it. By the way, if you're expecting a scene where Frankenstein sits down with the blind guy, starts smoking a cigar and goes, "Smoke good," you're not going to see that in this movie. That's not happening in this film.
Nothing.
I really enjoyed it immensely. Okay, moving on. Black Phone 2. Black Phone 2 is the sequel to The Black Phone, which was a pretty cool and original horror film that I guess was designed to build a franchise. And it was a movie about a serial killer named The Grabber who runs around wearing a devil mask and targets children. And in the first film, a 13-year-old kid named Finn is captured by the Grabber and locked in a basement, and he communicates with kind of the netherworld, or the Grabber calls him via an old-style black phone in the basement, and thus the name of the movie. And Finn, of course, fights back, this 13-year-old kid, and you don't expect there to be a sequel after the climax of The Black Phone, but Black Phone 2 is here, and this is one of those cases where you need to have seen the first film to really get the sequel, which is fairly well made by screenwriter and director Scott Derrickson. He does a good job here. And a 13-year-old Finn is now a few years older. It's 4 years on, and again, played by Mason Thames. And now it's his little sister that gets in trouble with the Grabber. The sister, played by a young actress named Madeline McGraw. Her name is Gwen, and she starts having dreams about the Grabber and about children that he apparently kidnapped and killed years ago at a Christian camp that her mother attended. So this movie actually serves as both a sequel and a prequel as we find out about the family's connection to the Grabber, including the mom. And the Grabber is played for the second time by Ethan Hawke, primarily behind the devil masks. But he's the kid-killing villain of both the first movie and this one. And now he's sort of slashing and burning in a dream realm where if something happens to you in the dream world, of course, it carries over to the real world. Thus, this thing cribs from Nightmare on Elm Street, and the Grabber kind of becomes a Freddy Krueger character in a way. In any event, you have to have seen the first one. The second one is well made of sorts, but if you haven't seen The Black Phone, I wouldn't bother with this. And I enjoyed The Black Phone, and this isn't quite as good, but again, if you are interested from having seen the first movie, sure, check it out. It's in theaters across the country.
Just the movie poster is gonna haunt my dreams tonight. This is the kind of movie that freaks the holy hell out of me, and this is why I hate horror movies. Can't do it.
Image is hideous.
Can't even look at it.
Well, a quick casting note, the terrific actor Damian Bashir didn't think it was beneath him to appear in this movie as the guy who runs the Christian camp. where, by the way, both Finn and Gwen go to try to solve the mystery of their mother's death. And you get where I'm going.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of going, let's move forward to
Okay.
a movie that also features Ethan Hawke, but actually stars him, and he's not behind a devil mask, and he gives one of the best performances of his career. It's called Blue Moon. And it is a new film from the director and screenwriter Richard Linklater. And you know this guy's work. He most recently did the very funny, effervescent, and visceral comedy based on a real guy, Hitman, which you can watch on Netflix if you want.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also the guy behind Boyhood, the Before trilogy, Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, and etc. And he did Waking Life. And all of those movies, Boyhood, the Before trilogy, and Waking Life, featured Ethan Hawke. So he's clearly one of Linklater's favorite actors. And in this movie, Blue Moon, he plays Lorenz Hart, the musical comedy songwriter who teamed up with Richard Rodgers and made a bunch of hit musicals back in the day. And then Rodgers moved on to Oscar Hammerstein as his collaborator. And this, of course, overturned the life of Lorenz Hart. So this is a night in the life of Lorenz Hart, and it's the night when Oklahoma, which was co-written by Rodgers and Hammerstein, has opened to rave reviews, and he's dealing with it at a local theatrical watering hole where everybody goes and gathers, and where the Oklahoma party is going to happen. So there's a lot of, kind of regret and angst, and I loved every moment of this. This is an eloquent script, and it reveals the genius and the tragedy of a legendary American songwriter, and it plays out in this glamorous setting during a very turbulent time, the early, late, I guess it's 40s, 50s, around then. And again, Linklater has written a beautiful script, and this has been sensitively and intimately directed by him. And actually, you know what? Let me amend that. He didn't write the script here. A different guy, Robert Kaplow did, but he did a wonderful job. And the cast is superb, and it's led by Hawke, who really disappears into the character of Lorenz Hart. And again, one of my favorite performances of his career. Margaret Qualley shimmers as a local actress who wants to, she's kind of in with the theatrical crowd. The wonderful and incredibly talented, you've seen him in a bunch of stuff, but Andrew Scott plays Richard Rodgers, who's, of course, conflicted at having split from Lorenz Hart. And Bobby Cannavale plays the bartender, wise, chatty, who is kind of a confessor to Hart as Hart is dealing with all of these turbulent feelings. I love Blue Moon. It is in limited release, and I think it's going to have a great life on streaming as well.
Okay. Limited release. Does that mean, again, with limited cities like New York and San Francisco and LA before it goes to wider audiences?
Yeah, maybe, or maybe it'll go to streaming. I don't know, but right now it's in the cities that usually welcome these early theatrical runs, and it's not available wide. But I highly recommend Blue Moon. I'm kind of a fan of Kelly Reichardt, the screenwriter and director who's made some really interesting films. She's done some twists on frontier stories like Meek's Cutoff and First Cow. She's worked a lot with Michelle Williams, who was in a recent film of hers called Showing Up. And now she gets together with an actor on the rise, the very, very talented Josh O'Connor in The Mastermind, which I think was very well received at Cannes. And it's not what you usually get from her. In this case, I mean, she's in modern times, or relatively modern times, maybe about 20, 30 years ago. It's like the 70s, but it's no longer like a frontier tale. In fact, it's set in Massachusetts, in the burbs, and a guy who's having financial difficulties and who fancies himself an expert on art decides to steal some valuable paintings. The guy's name is J.B. Mooney. And again, he's played by Josh O'Connor, and he tries to get a few cronies to help him out on the art theft. and things really don't go the way he planned. He thinks he's got it all sussed out, but he really doesn't. But this is very clever, very intimate, very quiet, relatively speaking, especially since it's a heist movie. But when you've got an actor of the quality of Josh O'Connor, and you've got supporting players like Gabby Hoffman and Hope Davis, you've got something going on. And Kelly Reichardt is a smart and very idiosyncratic writer and director. And I thought it may not be her best work, but The Mastermind was very cool and very interesting and worth kind of a studied look. And again, more likely on streaming than in a theater, but it is currently in limited release. It's called The Mastermind.
Okay, that looks interesting. What else you got?
Well, I've got a movie I think you're going to really dote on, or maybe not, because I think your kids are getting a little older. It's called Grow, and
Okay.
it's perfectly timed for October, for harvest season, and for Halloween. Grow is a sweet and charming family film from the UK about a girl named Charlie who is abandoned by her wannabe actress mother and ends up moving in with her all-business aunt, who is a struggling but dedicated farmer in a town that bills itself as the pumpkin capital of the world. So Charlie, who happens to have an otherworldly empathy with plants, wants to find her mother, but that's going to cost money she doesn't have. And meanwhile, her Aunt Dinah's farm is in financial trouble. So Charlie decides to enter the town's annual pumpkin growing competition and use her ability to communicate with plants and grow the biggest pumpkin ever and win, I think, 100,000 pounds as a prize. And of course, there are challenges. Like there's an aristocratic husband and wife who always manage to win the competition by whatever means necessary. I mean, nefarious or otherwise. And there's a local scientist using all sorts of genetic manipulation and super fertilizer to win, and so on. Kim, anybody who knows me knows I'm no fan of squash. And I especially abhor pumpkin spice everything. It's like a plague on our lives this time of year. But I do love Halloween, and I do love jack-o'-lanterns, and I thought this movie was quite nice. And the cast includes Nick Frost of Shaun of the Dead and a bunch of funny British comedies, here playing a hippie type who used to date Charlie's aunt and who knows his way around a pumpkin patch, so to speak. Jeremy Swift of Ted Lasso as the sneaky scientist. And those reliably funny veterans of UK sitcoms and movies, Tim McInerney and Jane Horrocks as the rich weasels, Lord and Lady Smythe Gherkin. And ultimately, it's the kid actor. Her name is Priya Rose Brookwell. She plays Charlie, and Golda Rochevelle plays Aunt Dinah, and they do most of the heavy lifting. And they make Grow kind of a lighter-than-air treat. It's directed by John McPhail. It's in select theaters for now, but it's going to be ideal for all ages, home viewing. It's called Grow.
You say this is in theaters, or where is it?
Select theaters. Again, I pray to your theater is selected. But in fact, I think, in a lot of necks of the woods, you're going to have to wait till it gets to streaming. Okay. I don't know how far it's going to expand, but it does seem to be ideal for the streaming market.
All right, then. We will definitely put it on the list in this house.
Oh,
all right,
cool.
Michael, what else is on your movie list for us? Anything else?
Let's wrap this up with the winner of the Palme d'Or at Cannes this year. It was just an accident. Oh my God. This is a smart and exciting thriller with a socio-political bent, and it's from the actual Iranian filmmaker who, by the way, has gotten into all kinds of trouble, Jafar Panahi. And this guy has had to deal with the government coming after him. He's always been critical of the Iranian government, and he's been thrown in jail a couple of times. And he made this film without official filming permission from the Iranian authorities. And by the way, most of the women in this film, if not all of the women, do not wear a hijab, which I believe is counter to Iranian law. But the movie is really, really something else. So a guy is driving with his wife and kid and hits and kills a dog. It's at night. And he's kind of freaked out, and the car has problems. So he pulls into a garage, and in the garage, is a political prisoner or a former political prisoner who recognizes him and wants to exact revenge for having been locked up. And this causes a whole odyssey as one guy is trying to chase down the other, and all these various and sundry characters enter into things. There's a book salesman, a wedding photographer, and a bride and a groom, and they're all stuck all day and all night in this van because they've captured and locked up this former intelligence officer. And it was really something else. Really, really smart and really, really exciting. And it's also an investigation into the morality of revenge, of taking a life. All of these things are folded into it. And again, amazing that he made this in Iran against the wishes, one would presume, of the government and the officials that have previously detained him for his overt political stance. Again, it's called, and I love the title, It Was Just an Accident.
And I'm assuming this one has subtitles?
It does have subtitles, and it is, again, in select theaters. I apologize. It's in select theaters. Not everyone will get to see it with ease.
All right. Well, that's okay. What about streaming? What can I see with ease?
I would highly recommend the movie that our friend Tim Sika already discussed on the After Party Live, John Candy, I Like Me. And it is just a sweet, funny, heartbreaking docudrama. No, it's not even that. It's a documentary, and it talks to some of Candy's peers and friends, including members of the SCTV troupe, and that would be Martin Short and Dave Thomas, Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy. It speaks to Tom Hanks, who obviously knew the man. It's a lovely, lovely movie, and you'll see what a wonderful performer and what a funny guy and what a kind person John Candy was. And he had demons, but this is not one of those like John Belushi drinks himself to death things. This guy loved life, wanted to live, wasn't self-destructive in an overt way, but had some issues among them with his weight and the way people perceived of him, with the nature of his career. But it's pretty terrific. It's available on Amazon Prime. Again, it's called John Candy, I Like Me.
You get a lot of support for that. Eileen's saying, yep, I Like Me is so good. So in the chat, they're agreeing with you. Let's do the recap. And the first movie you had for us is Frankenstein. Of this movie, you said, boy, this is good. You said this movie is closer to the original book. It is gorgeous to look at. You said this movie kicked ass. You were never bored. You said it's about 2 hours as well. So that's saying something. And that it's in limited release and comes to Netflix on November 7th. So we have that to look forward to. Of Black Phone 2, you said you gotta see Black Phone 1 in order to see Black Phone 2. You gotta see the original first. Ooh, there's that picture again. You said the movie's well made, that 2 isn't as good as the first one, but you didn't not enjoy this movie.
No, it was okay. I just felt like it was diminished by how interesting and exciting the original movie was. And again, if you didn't see that first film, why are you even thinking about seeing this?
Blue Moon, you loved every moment. You said the script is eloquent, the setting glamorous, Hawk is great. The directing is great. You really loved this one. You said it's in limited release and you highly recommend Blue Moon.
Yeah, and Kim, I want to point out that the movie pretty much takes place in this swanky bar. That's it. So it's not like it's all over, Manhattan during the 40s, but it is so cool.
The Mastermind. You said this is a very cool and a very interesting movie. It was well received at Cannes. It's in limited release, and you said, yeah, it's a cool movie. Do you recommend The Mastermind? It was just an accident. You called it a smart, exciting thriller. You said this movie is really something else. It was just an accident. You said as an investigation into the morality of revenge and murder. It was made in Iran, which was quite a feat. It's in select theaters, and you really liked It Was Just an Accident. And Grow, lastly, you said it was quite nice. A great cast, lighter than air treat, you called it, ideal for all ages, also in select theaters. And lastly, you said on TV, streaming, this documentary called John Candy, I Like Me. You recommend this one as well. So
I
there you
do.
go.
And for
Yeah.
those who are fans, The Diplomat season 3 started on Netflix yesterday, so get on
Oh,
board.
now I know what's happening tonight. Excellent. I love that show. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome,
Excellent.
Kim.
Michael Snyder, always lovely to hang out with you, and thank you for bringing us all the good stuff.
Well, you're very welcome, and we're excited. Things are treacherous in 49er land, but hope springs eternal. Sunday Night Football, they face the Falcons here in the Bay Area at Levi Stadium. I will be rooting for the Scarlet and Gold. I don't know about you, but go Niners, and
Go
I'll be
Niners.
back with you and Mark hopefully next Friday.
Let's hope the power comes back on. He comes and goes. Bye-bye.
So
Awesome.
long.
Thank you. So long.